introductions of a new generation of GPUs from Nvidia or AMD tend to follow a predictable pattern. A new architecture is introduced which promises futuristic features and improved performance, the flagship GPUs come out and people start online fights over GPUs that they cannot afford, eventually the more mid-end GPUs start coming out that people can actually buy, and a long time after the architecture was introduced, it trickles down into affordable GPUs that come out without much fanfare, and the mainstream PC gaming tech space proceeds to all over it because it is not good bang per buck. Now the cycle is gearing up to start again for the next generation, and it is clear that the last part of that cycle for the current generation has been somewhat disrupted. We didn't get a truly entry-level GPUs under $100 for this generation like the old GT 1030 or the RX 550, and there's a good reason for that. The entry-level landscape was particularly weird this generation. Integrated graphics have matured and become common enough that there's less of a need for entry-level GPUs for video output and light gaming. Furthermore, AMD does this really interesting thing where they either still produce or have huge stocks of their old generation GPUs that they sell for reasonable prices, to the point that they accidentally cannibalize whatever passes for entry-level current generation AMD Navi. And it's likely the reason why they don't care or need to introduce anything cheaper with the newer architecture. On the Nvidia side, every few generations they release cheap cards like the GT 1030 to try and provide a video output with the benefits of a modern architecture, and these GT cards tend to stick in production for a long time. We didn't get anything like that in this generation. Instead, the most entry-level thing we got was the GTX 1650. When this GPU was initially introduced, it was critically panned by enthusiasts and tech reviewers for reasons that seem clear in a straight comparison. Its performance is comparable with an older and very popular GTX 1060, which can often be found for close to $100 used in many places around the world, or compatible to the previously mentioned old AMD RX 570 or RX 580, which can often be found cheaper for new. Ever since Nvidia does what Nvidia do and has launched so many variants of this thing, a new one with faster memory, a super variant, one that uses a different die, and the performance price ratio of this humble GPU has improved as a result, but I kept thinking back to that original comparison everyone did when this originally launched, and I felt that part of the story was just missing. You see, one thing that I feel does not get talked enough is that one of the improvements of the entry level, brought in by a new generation, is reductions in size, heat, and power consumption. If you have the same full tower PC you have been upgrading forever with a decent power supply, then yeah, you look at these performance results and it might be better to get a RX 580 or a GTX 1060 or something. But if you are in the very specific use case for a low profile, small form factor system with a limited power supply, things flip on their head really quickly. I started thinking about this when I bought one of these. This is an HP Elite Office computer, a slim, small form factor PC. Occasionally when companies decommission these, they sell them really cheap, or someone refurbishes them and flips them over and sells them in Amazon or eBay as a cheap PC for enthusiasts of budget gaming. If you can find one, and they can be rare in a lot of countries, they're usually one upgrade away from being pretty decent low-cost gaming machines. I bought one recently here in Spain and did a video right before this one on the good, the bad and the ugly of the startup build. I used a GTX 1050 for that video, but left the idea of a GPU upgrade to the future, and that future is now. So at this point, you might be looking at this video and asking yourself, hey, was this part of the last video? Did you just split it into a second one just so you could attach another sponsor and not waste all the money of the video on just components? And to those people I say, how dare you? What kind of accusation is that? Why would you even think that of me? This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream, and if you use the link in the description, you also get free access to Nebula. So this computer is very thin and uses a proprietary 250 watt power supply, which cannot be just upgraded with an off-the-shelf replacement. This sort of build limits your options severely, and the best you can get is a low-profile GTX 1650, which hilariously in Spain is as expensive as the whole freaking PC. But also, low-profile GPU pricing is so weird that it is by far the most logical option. It is simultaneously overpriced and a great deal. What a conundrum. This is the original 1650, not the super variant or the faster memory version, because I could not find those in low-profile sizes, but hopefully that's a thing that happens eventually. Thankfully, installation was super simple considering it only gets power from a PCIe port. Not all variants of the 1650 can operate without external power, but the low-profile version does. So what can we expect from something so small and efficient? Interestingly enough, in the tests that I have run, it performs very similarly to a GTX 1060. Here's the thing I don't think I have ever said before on the channel. Here's Overwatch on 1080p running on highest settings and 60 FPS. With space left over, more than enough CPU and GPU power for this and more. Jump to Apex Legends on something closer to medium or to high settings, and I can see why people recommend this sort of combination. There were some slowdowns when lots of things were happening, so I will probably play it on lower settings, but clearly this is more than enough for competitive titles. So let's try bigger and heavier and newer stuff. Since newer Assassin's Creed games are murder for all CPUs, I wanted to raise the settings until every component will be as taxed as possible, mainly because I wanted to see if the power supply could keep it going, and to my immense surprise, at these frame rates I could increase the settings past medium into high. Again, immensely surprising. In fact, in most open world games, medium settings or more were easily possible and only limited by the old CPU on this small office PC and still completely within the realms of playability. And less CPU intensive games like Sekiro work on high settings with a perfect lock while looking great. This almost officially makes this GPU too high-end for this channel. But before I threw it off screen, I wanted to take this PC and GPU and use it for the thing that it was not intended to. Like virtual reality. There are many good reasons to avoid using old CPUs and mid-range GPUs for virtual reality. Chief of them being that if you get stuttering or sudden freezes in virtual reality, you can get very motion sick. Still, I have in the past spoken at how some virtual reality games, such as Superhot and Beat Saber, are optimized way better than people assume, both in terms of CPU and GPU. I connected the one headset I own, an HP Windows Mixed Reality that I managed to find for cheap, and that I have made videos about in the past. This PC could run both games at 90 FPS. Wow. Right, I did have to do a small but important upgrade for this part to work. I had to upgrade to a cheap SSD and leave the mechanical hard drive as just game storage, as VR games will take so long to load that SteamVR will actually time out and crash. But after this relatively simple change, a new world of possibilities was unlocked. The big challenge was Half-Life Alyx. Half-Life Alyx is very optimized, but it is not what I will call a light title. Just the minimal requirements already ask for more RAM than this PC has, more VRAM that this GPU has, and a significant newer CPU. First attempts to run it at low settings were painful and caused some of the VR motion sickness I was pointing out before. Thankfully, I have had a lot of luck in the past getting this game to work even on integrated GPUs. There are a number of commands and texture tweaks that can be particularly helpful for the lack of VRAM. Add to that some commands I have been sent by some of you, like this command that disables the forced anti-aliasing, or the fact that the game now supports Vulkan, which should in theory have a lower CPU hit, and the result is way more interesting. Now, this isn't perfect. The very old CPU on this PC is really struggling here in more ways than meet the eye, particularly when loading new areas or navigating certain menus, but most of the time it works. And I was able to go through a full section of the game combat like this with only minor discomfort in some regards. I think this should be obvious, but I don't recommend a refurbished PC if you're going to play Half-Life Alyx. But the fact that this is achievable at all is a testament to what this low-profile 1650 can achieve when combined with an older and inexpensive office PC. So, looking back at our main question, is there a point, a reason for the GTX 1650 to exist in a world where used and new last-gen GPUs are accessible? Yes, and I will say the devil is on the details. For people on full tower PCs with access to options, Maybe not so much, but there should always be a market for bargain hunters using old office PCs with limited power supplies, or people on very small systems. And for those people, the trickling down of technology provides with a pretty high performance option that barely uses any power. It is just a shame that this process stopped there and we haven't gotten a GT 1630 or some real option under $100 for low spec enthusiasts. And on that note, I have said everything I wanted on this video. I better keep this succinct, flowing, and on topic, or YouTube is going to tell me again how their retention is terrible and my video will be tanked. Oh wait, I know, I will put the extended cut on Nebula. Wait, what is Nebula, you said? I'm glad you asked. Nebula is our own streaming service that a group of creators started because YouTube is a bit of a marriage of convenience sometimes, and it will be nice to have some control over a platform and not have random things change underneath you all the time. It features and is owned by many creators and friends that you might have seen around this channel, like Thiersu, Legal Eagle, Knowing Better, and many more. We're already uploading all our new content there simultaneously when it comes out in YouTube, or at least as close as we can, and some of us have started adding some extended cuts there, so instead of seeing this ad that you're seeing right now, you get a bit of extra content. Something that I'm going to start doing for all my videos that mention Nebula on YouTube moving forward. Oh, and then there's the way more ambitious original content, like half as interesting the Brick Facade, where I might make a cameo, or the fantastic story mode where lessons from the screenplay evaluates the art behind video game storytelling, and oh boy, I cannot wait until I can travel again so I can show you the original show that I have on store for this thing. I might have a couple of other projects that you might hear about very soon. If at least I made you curious, now I can get you a way to get into Nebula for free. You see, we partner with CuriosityStream. You might have heard of them, they're the best source of streaming high-quality professional documentaries with thousands of titles, and since they love quality creators online, they have partnered with us for a bundle. If you use the link down below, you not only get access to CuriosityStream, you also get access to Nebula for free. This is not a trial, you will have Nebula as long as you have the CuriosityStream subscription. And for a limited time, CuriosityStream is offering 26% off their annual plan. That's less than $15 a year for both CuriosityStream and Nebula. It's the best deal in streaming. So click the link below to get both for 26% off. It's a great way to support my channel and quality content as a whole. CuriosityStream.com/LowSpecGamer. I don't know how many more times I have to tell you this. Clicking on that link really helps my channel.